9 job offers in my hand at that point of time, including international ones. In just a month after joining, I met a major road accident. I have learned them and built them over my life at TCS.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Learning Bridge. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe. And guys, in this podcast, I'm going to have a discussion with an experienced IT professional who is having around 10 years of experience, and he is having a really good experience of working in service-based firm and then moving into the amazing product-based companies like McAfee, Amazon, and now working in Intuit. We will definitely focus about his starting journey where he spent almost 5 years in service-based firm, that is TCS. We all know about some typical challenges working in service-based companies, but the question was that he spent almost 5 years there. So how easy and difficult was it for him to move into those product-based companies, and starting 5 years of career, what he learned in that company, what was the challenges, what were the good points? These kind of discussions we will be having. And since he is also having a good experience in building the large scale systems, Java distributed systems, so we will be having discussions around those topics as well. And guys, we are talking about the product based companies, and to crack it, one important thing is highly essential, that is your programming understanding and knowledge of data structures and algorithms. So here is a platform, Coding Ninjas, which will help you to get expertise in problem solving and data structures and algorithm. It is one of the largest coding education company and have taught around 50,000 plus students. Coding Ninjas offers courses from basic to advanced level in programming, and that too like C++, Java, machine learning, Android development, data science, and many more. This exceptional content curated by their experts from IIT, Stanford, Amazon, and Facebook, and the success stories of different students speaks a lot about their content quality. Like their alumni are working in top-notch companies, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Flipkart, Walmart, Morgan Stanley, and many more. And the best thing about the courses on Coding Ninjas is that you will get a one-to-one doubt resolving support. Those doubts get resolved within 1 to 2 hours. They have got 4.9 star rating on Google and Facebook reviews. Courses are very well structured for college students, and if students put right hard work and efforts, these courses will be enough to crack any tech job interview. And if you are also passionate enough to crack good product based companies, then start your coding journey with Coding Ninjas today. You can use the link which is mentioned in the description and you will get 15% extra discount. So hurry up. So watch this podcast till the end, and if you like it, then make sure to give a thumbs up. So now quickly jump on to the podcast part. Thank you, 𝗶𝘶, first of all, for giving you time in this weekend for this podcast. And I've been following you on LinkedIn. It's really nice to have you on my channel. So 𝗶𝘶, I have gone through with your LinkedIn profile and I saw your background. Okay, so I'm really interested to know about your beginning in TCS. You have spent around 5 years there, right? As an IT analyst. So what was the motivation to spend that much time in the service-based firm, and what were your learnings in that period?
Right, that's a fair question. I mean, a lot of people would obviously think about that. So to begin there, let me get back to how I started, right? So I joined TCS as a fresh graduate out of college. I completed my graduation in 2010 in computer science from College of Engineering and Technology, Bhubaneswar. And TCS was I got into TCS through college placements, and I joined somewhere around August when the training started. My training was in Trivandrum, Kerala. And my training was in fact in mainframe systems, a very legacy language, if you know, which was used in ATMs and bank systems, but not so much now. But I performed well in the training, and TCS gives you an option to choose your location, and I gave my hometown as location. So my hometown is in Cuttack, Odisha, and I chose Bhubaneswar, Odisha, because it was the same state. And I got there. I joined TCS Bhubaneswar sometime around November, and just a month after joining, I met a major road accident. My face got broken and multiple fractures across the body, and I was in hospital for a complete month. So then TCS helped a lot, the HR people and the company as well helped a lot. So that was one emotional factor why I stuck to TCS. But apart from that, after I recovered, I came back home. Just a month after that, my father passed away, and it was just me and my mom there. So that was the major reason why I stayed back at home. Necessarily not the entire 5 years, but the first 2-3 years I had to stay back to take care of all the matters that were left behind when my father passed away, take care of my mom and all that. And obviously there were not a lot of opportunities in Bhubaneswar. There was Infosys, there was Mahindra Satyam, and a few more companies, but the standard 20% hike over the existing salary did not really help a lot. I would say end of 4 years, the package in TCS would maximum grow to 5 lakhs, and Infosys giving you 5.5 lakhs on top of that did not make sense. Right. So I stuck there around for three years, taking care of things at family, taking care of my mom, and then I started looking out after things settled down. Right. So that's why, considering the 5 years, there was no motivation as such, to stay with TCS. But the learnings, like I said, what were my learnings? That was definitely a good point there, because half of the technologies that if you see on my resume, I have learned them and built them over my life at TCS.
That's great.
Problem with service-based companies that people face, and they have this notion that the work is not good, it is because of the projects. Now, most of the projects in service-based companies are either maintenance or support or testing. There are very few development projects. Now, I was lucky there because I got into an internal group. It was called the core group of tools and technologies. And we developed projects or products. In fact, it was kind of a product group inside TCS. And over the 5 years of my time there, I worked on multiple different projects, not only one project. A bigger problem with TCS and Infosys is that if you're stuck in one project, you're stuck there forever. That was not my case. I got to work in multiple projects, multiple different technologies. I got to see people using my technologies, and I learned a lot. So I never felt that I need to get out of here because I'm not learning. That was not the issue. But yes, when I got the chance, when I got the opportunity at the end of 5 years, I took it and I moved out of Bhubaneswar and TCS as well.
Okay, and first of all, really sorry for the losses you had. And first thing, like the +1 for the TCS, as you mentioned, that they supported you really well in your hard times. So for that one, definitely a +1. And that's what for you, it was like a circumstances more than the motivations to spend that much amount of time in TCS. But as you already said, that in terms of the learning and development, whatever you did there, so it helped you a lot to move into other good companies itself.
Yes.
That's great. So, Sivan, like your movement from service to product-based companies, like you worked with McAfee, Amazon, now working with Intuit, right? So, how easy or difficult was it for you? At least the first one, like you spent 5 years and then took a move into McAfee. So, at least that first one, did you get these opportunities easily? If not, then what did you follow to make yourself stand out and seeking attention of good product-based companies?
Okay. Yeah, definitely the first one was not easy. It's never easy to make a switch from a service to a product-based company. Like I said, at the end of 3 years into TCS, I had already decided I want to look out, but I did not get those opportunities. Back then, LinkedIn was not so famous. We had Naukri.com, Monster.com, and all of these things. So I was really updated there. After 4 years in TCS, I kind of switched from a complete backend to a full stack developer. That's where I learned all this HTML, CSS, and Angular that I used in the projects that I was working on. And HackerEarth was coming up as a new one there. So HackerEarth used to run company-specific placement drives, or you say online coding contest challenges, right? It had just started back then. You did not have a lot of competition like now, rather than like people giving competition. There's very few.
There are lots of platforms nowadays.
Yes. So it was very new at that point of time, online coding challenges for placement. And I gave McAfee's online coding challenge through HackerEarth at that point of time. Unfortunately, I did not clear that challenge when it happened. It was you had to build a new web application. I did not clear it in that challenge. But the good point was that HackerEarth used to keep this list of all the people who had participated and the scores, obviously. So what happens in companies is that, let's say a company takes top 10 people from the challenge, right, and interviews them. Not all of them are going to join. So if 5 people join, you still have 5 more places. So you take the next 10 people from there. So even though I did not get selected in the first challenge, that actual challenge, McAfee reached out to me after a few months saying that we have your score from the challenge that you had taken earlier, and we would like to go for an interview. So that's what happened. I was interviewed for a UI developer role. It was a role in the email security, email SaaS team of McAfee. I interviewed for that. The interview went pretty well because I was just going into the UI developer role at TCS and everything was fresh in my mind, all the experience and learning. So the interview went well and I cracked it. in fact, that was the only interview I ever got from TCS. So when they said, we are good with you, you can join us, here's the offer, I said, okay, I'll take it. And that was in Bangalore, and that's when I decided to move to Bangalore.
Share your experience with Intuit, because you have interviewed for the experienced role. So it would be good for those audience who are actually trying to get into these companies for the experience and the senior role. So you can share that experience, and also throw some light on your profile as well, like a staff software engineer. Okay, that what are the actual role and responsibilities of that particular profile, and how much would you rate Intuit in terms of work life, learnings, and environment?
Okay, good. So let me start with saying that joining Intuit was kind of a controversial decision in my life, but it also turned out to be the very good decision. Because when I joined Intuit, right, it was the time when lockdowns were happening. I had around 9 job offers in my hand at that point of time, including international ones in London, and Germany.
London was it Facebook? London was it Facebook or something?
No, it was 2 startups, one travel startup and one bank. I had offers from one company in Spain and one from Germany. And I had also an offer from Amazon Seattle. Right, I had applied for internal transfer, and it had got approved also. Unfortunately, 2 days before my visa interview in Chennai, the embassy shut down. Right. So, and the same thing happened for all the other international offers as well. The best thing I had at that point of time was Intuit. I had a lot of domestic offers as well, but Intuit stood out from all of them because 3 years ago also, when I applied for Amazon, I had applied for Intuit as well at that point of time. I had heard a lot about Intuit. If you see Glassdoor reviews, right, that's through the roof, very good reviews. And so I did not even think twice about taking Intuit's offer and saying yes at that point of time. And my joining was completely remote. I joined in April, completely virtual. I have only been to the office for interview. And starting from the interview experience till my onboarding experience, and even I just recently completed 1 year at Intuit. And I can say that I never had even one single chance of complaining about anything. Coming to the experience, the interview experience and all, I would like to share how the roles are here at Intuit. We have an SW1, SW2, and then you have senior software engineer, then staff software engineer, and then principal software engineer. So just to give a comparison with probably Amazon or Microsoft, a staff software engineer lives somewhere in between our high-level SSE and a principal, SD3 and a principal, if you compare it to Amazon. Right. Right. The interview process of Intuit is almost similar to what you have for other companies. You have those technical rounds. It starts with phone screen. You have 2 rounds of DSL. You have 1 design round, 1 managerial round, and if you are on for a higher level like a staff or a principal, you have some round with the director also for the org that you're going to join. Now the different part in an Intuit interview comes for the design round. Here, the design round is not your standard high-level design question where you join an interview, the interview gives you a question and you work on it. No, we have a different thing which we call a craft demo, in which a use case is shared with the candidate, and the candidate is given 90 minutes to look at the use case and come up with the design of an entire system. Now, this need not be only a high-level design. It has to be high-level, obviously the high-level, plus the database components, what you have database design, the modeling, the API design, as much as you can do to build an entire system. The candidate gets 90 minutes to work on this. You can create a Word document out of it. You can create diagrams using online tools. And once you are done, then we have an interview. Then after that 90 minutes for preparation, you have a 1-hour interview. Now this interview is more of a discussion than an interview. And you don't have the pressure of coming up with the design in an interview because you already had the time. You had 90 minutes to prepare it earlier. So now this interview is more of a discussion that, okay, you have done this. Now, can you tell me why you have done this and how would you have done it differently if the constraints were different, right? Now, there are multiple advantages of this discussion. The candidate is no longer in a pressure to make sure that the design is right? A lot of people come under pressure and do something wrong there. Right? Second, since it is no more a questioning kind of thing, right? No one is judging you on the spot. This is something you have done earlier. You had enough time to do it. Now it becomes a matter of your real life experience. Now, if you have done something, why did you do it? Have you done it earlier in your previous projects? How did you implement them? Those implementation details come in. It's not theoretical thing like, okay, put a cache there, it will work. You have to understand why it works. Why do you need a cache there? You cannot just simply put a cache and think that it will solve stuff, right? So this really helps. This graph demo really helps. The rest of it is normal standard interview like other companies.
Okay, so 𝗶𝗶, you have a really good experience in architecting large-scale products. These are the information I have collected from your profile, right? So share some best practices, like based on your experience of almost 10 years. So share some best practices and important points to keep in mind while building these large-scale systems.
All right. So just to give everyone an example of the system that I have built at Amazon, if you go to Amazon app or website, and if you go to Amazon Pay, you would see that if you know 3 years ago, Amazon started something called mobile recharges. And then it went ahead to bill payments, electricity bill, for DTH, gas bill, all of those things.
Other entities, yeah.
And then it went into flights, movies, bus tickets, and all those things. I was in that team, and the entire backend of the bill payment system was designed by me. Right? I designed the entire backend of the bill payment system, and half of the backend, you could say, for the travel and entertainment categories. Right? Plus, after that, I led an entire category called Digital Gold. I had my own team, which I worked with for building that entire category from scratch. Obviously, these systems are used by millions of people every day. So I think you're right when I say I build large-scale systems.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, the fundamental thing while building these systems, right, you have a lot of videos online, a lot of courses online which talk about everything from scalability, performance, and everything that you need to build a large-scale system. For me, personally, what has worked for me and what I would like to tell others to stick to one fundamental principle when it comes to designing any kind of system, whether it is small or large, whether it is serving just one customer or 1 million customers, is to think about bottlenecks and failure modes. Right? Where can a system fail? Because we have a very good thing log where that anything that can fail will fail. So this is something you have to keep in mind. And if you stick to this one principle, you will find that everything else, all the other parameters or the attributes for distributed systems fall in place. Just to give an example, let's say you're designing something for Book My Show. Just as an example. What will you have? You will have a client-side Android or website. You will have a server. You will have a database. A very simple monolithic application, if you say. Forget about having a lot of components. Now, when I ask you a question that, hey, you have one server, what happens if the server fails? Right? Now it will come to your mind that, okay, I have to think about availability. If my server fails, my application is not available anymore. So you do a replication of the server. Availability kicks in. Next question I ask you is, what will happen if 1 million users visit your site and your servers crash because of the traffic? Now you think about scalability. See, the first failure led you to think about availability. The second failure leads you to think about scalability. And then I would ask, what happens if your requests take a lot of time, let's say more than 30 seconds, and the request times out? You get socket timeout errors. That fails. Now you think about performance. How do I make my system performant that I can return before 30 seconds? So a single question, what happens when this fails, leads to different kinds of solutions across all the attributes of a distributed system. That's what I have been following, and it has been working great till now across all different kinds of systems.
𝗶𝗶, next question for you. You have the good experience in the Java side itself, like you have your YouTube channel. So guys, I'll put his YouTube channel link in the description. So he used to create videos about the Java tutorials and its important topics, right? So since you have a good experience around that Java distributed system, so based on your experience, can you name 5 very important concepts of it which everyone should prepare, at least who is going for the interviews, and have a good hands-on the Java part?
Okay, so I would not suggest to stick to Java as such, but definitely it's a fact that Java is one of the most used programming languages when it comes to large enterprises. For startups, you would see that it's mostly based on UI frameworks. Even a lot of startups have started adopting Go. But when it comes to very large enterprises, whether it be Amazon or Intuit or Google, they all use Java for most of the stuff, right?
They are running on Java.
Right. I don't know 5 different stuffs, but I can give you some general guidelines here, right? Because when you talk about topics, 5 different topics, then there are certain pillars that you have that you should consider while building any application. Those are common pillars like availability, scalability, performance, security, and all those things, right? Now, when it comes to old applications and really established languages like Java, the biggest problem that people run into is the availability of libraries. There are so many libraries out there, right? People just use, I'll just give an example of Guava library. It has everything, right?
Okay.
So the problem what I see in Java developers is they just blindly use these libraries without worrying about how it works.
Okay.
I'll give an example. I was just recently discussing this with one of my mentees about designing a rate limiting solution in Java, right? And if you know, Guava has a complete class for rate limiter. You can just go ahead and use the class and design a rate limiting solution. But by doing this, you are ignoring the fact, you're ignoring the understanding of how rate limiter works, the entire token bucket algorithm and how it works, how you refill those buckets and all those things, right? So what I suggest is always use libraries, definitely, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but understand how it works. Go for Guava, go for Apache Commons, use all of them, but understand how it works so that tomorrow, if someone pulls out the library or someone even asks you an interview question, you know how it works. A very good example is the LRU cache. We see this question in lead code also, that design an LRU cache. Now, an LRU cache can be written in 10 lines of code by extending a linked hash map in Java. That is the easiest way of doing it. But you need to understand how it works. You need to put that using a linked double linked list and queues and all those things. You have to understand how it works internally. This is the biggest shortcoming that I have seen in Java developers, because everything is accessible so easily, so we ignore it.
You have interviewed a number of people, I'm pretty sure, right? Since you are on a senior level role. So as an experienced interviewer, what do you expect from a candidate who is applying for a junior level role and from a candidate who is applying for a senior level role?
Okay, this is actually a good question. One common thing that all of them should know is how to do it. Let's say I give you a question. Let's not talk about DS algo questions, because you spend 1 month on this code. Yeah. Right. So let's talk about a real life scenario where I give you a situation and how do you, let's say something broke in production, like we were talking about, how do you handle this, or how do you launch a new product and how do you get it into market, right? Those things. So from junior developers, just to put a standard, like we have at Amazon, we have this role guidelines for every role, right? We predefined what they need to understand. Similarly, at Intuit, we have something called role rubrics, what every role needs to understand. So just quoting those documents, a junior engineer is supposed to know how to do something. Given an input, they need to know how to do it. They may or may not reach out to someone else to get some input on how the logic, but they should be very clear that given an input, they should and an output, they should be able to build everything that sits in between. Right? Okay. If you take a DS algo question, your question is there, you build the entire, write the entire code, come up with a solution, do the dry run, and do it. It could be just brute force or the level 1 where a little bit optimization is required. Given a high level design question, you can just build a monolithic application till you know all the concepts involved there, what you want to use, how you want to build the system. That is okay for a junior developer. What makes a senior developer different from a junior developer here is the why part. Why are you doing this? Right. Now, given a system to build, it is okay. I can tell that, okay, I need asynchronous communication. I will put a queue there. I know how to implement an asynchronous communication, right? And then I can go ahead and say, okay, I'll use Kafka. Okay. A senior developer here has to analyze the requirement that, okay, it's an asynchronous communication. Okay, that's fine. I will use a queue. But why a queue? Is there something else I can use? Can I use and when I use that queue, why Kafka? What is something else that I use? Can I use SQS? Can I use Redis? Can I use Kafka? So that those pros and cons analysis of everything to reach out to a solution. Why am I doing this? Right. And when I put a queue, what do I do then? Should it be a pull-based one or push-based one? If I'm doing pull-based, why am I doing that? And so one level again, then if it's a pull-based, what should be my polling interval? Why am I sticking to this polling interval? So every decision that a senior engineer takes should have a solid section which tells why this decision is being taken by me. What are the data that I have to back it up? What is the pros and cons analysis that I have done? And why is this the perfect decision in my view? It may not be the perfect decision on the entire world, but they should have enough data to back up that decision. A junior engineer is not expected to know all these things, because they have someone senior to tell them that, okay, I have decided everything. I have decided we should use a queue, we should use Kafka, we should have a 10-minute polling interval. Go and implement it. A junior now should know how to implement it.
All right. Again, thanks, Sibin, for just comparing the expectation for a junior developer and for a senior developer. So, I think people should get clear now that what would be expected from you based on your experience in the interviews. So, I'll wrap up this session with one last question, Sibin. So, again, it would be probably related to the hiring process, because we have seen that sometimes people also criticize the hiring process as well, like the interviews or whatever they are applying. So as per your experience, if you want to change one thing in the hiring process, then what would it be?
Okay. Well, there are a lot of things I would like to change in hiring processes, but yeah, everything is a controversial topic. I don't want to start HR versus developer wars. But one thing where all of us should agree, and this is not something which is a theoretical thing, but a very practical thing that happens in the European markets or the US markets, is to get rid of asking your last salary drawn. In the US, it is illegal to ask your salary. Same with Europe. They never ask. When I gave interviews last year, no one asked me my salary for all the European companies, right? And it does not even make sense.
So they used to follow a bracket, like a standard bracket based on your experience. It's not like a typical Indian companies thinks, okay, aapka past CTC kitna tha, based on that we will give 30%, 40%, 50%, whatever it is.
They don't care. So they have a budget allocated for every role, a fixed. So your salary consists of fixed and a variable, right? The variable consists of a bonus and the stocks as well. So the budget for the fixed salary budget is budgeted for every role. And those companies have been very straightforward, saying that, okay, let's say you're giving interview for a London-based company. They will clearly say that, okay, our budget for this role is £90,000 to £110,000. And on top of that, the bonus and the stocks are separate, right? And all you know is that based on your interview performance, you will land up anywhere between 90 and 110. What you are earning today does not matter. You could very well be a first-year person in TCS earning 3.5 lakhs. And then next day, if you convert that, you'll be getting £90,000, which is like a 1 crore, right? So they don't really care what you are getting. They have their own standards and they pay you according to that. That transparency needs to be brought into India. I have seen a lot of instances where people have refused to disclose their salary, but it does not work out because recruiters say we cannot proceed without knowing the salary, right? So that is one thing which I feel should be taken off. Yes. And a great thing about the US market is also the transparency. You have levels.fyi where you can go and put your company and see how much is the pay bracket for each of those companies and roles. That transparency needs to be here, because I have personally seen two people, same years of experience, working in the same company for the same role with a massive difference in pay, just because their previous salary was different. So if you put into priority, the things I want to change, this would be the first one.
That was the wrap for this session, 𝗶𝗃, and thank you very much, for spending your 30-40 minutes with me and giving your advices and sharing your experience of 10 years for service-based firms and for product-based firms and designing large-scale systems. It was a good learning for me as well, and I hope people will learn and some of their doubts will be cleared from this entire podcast. So from my side and from my audience side, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Shashank, for inviting me. You are doing a great job with all these podcasts, where people get to learn from so many different other people and their experiences. I hope you get a lot of views on this and e-learning which grows a lot.
Thank you
Wish
so
you
much.
luck.
Thank you so much. So that was all about this video, guys. I hope you liked the advices given by Siben and whatever he suggested or whatever points he talked about working in a service-based company and then how you can basically move into product-based companies. I hope those advices will help you. And I personally liked his advices about the building large-scale systems and the interviews and what he actually expects in the hiring process. These points were really valuable. I will see you guys in next weekend with another amazing story. Till then, just stay safe, stay home, take care of yourself and your family too.